Welcome back, guys. Another episode of the Hawk Vision Podcast. I am your host, Chuck Hawkins, here to help you shorten the learning curve across on your way to greatness. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe across all of your social media platforms, especially here at YouTube. More importantly, share this podcast with other visionaries just like you. Before we get started, a lot of you have been sending in messages on how to support the show. So if you look in the show notes, you'll be able to see a link for my favorite things. If you know anything about me, you know that I love me some coffee. And right now, you'll be able to support the show by buying a cup of coffee or two. And for those of you that are subscribers, there'll be some additional content available to you, or maybe I'll answer a couple of questions. As always, I can't thank you enough for all the DMs, comments, and messages. We absolutely cannot grow the show without you, my visionaries. We're going international, guys. Ooh, excuse me. We're going international. Our guest this week is one of the most prominent business coaches coming out of Australia. She has 12,000 actively engaged followers across her social media platforms because she truly believes in helping people thrive and create profitable businesses. She has been featured in multiple spaces as a top producer, voted on stage, best on stage for Superfest Business, Heart-Centered Business. I mean, the accolades and achievements are almost never ending. I was doing my research and was astounded. This woman has helped literally hundreds of women launch profitable businesses by leading with her 6 core values. She's an author, speaker, business coach. I am so excited for you guys to hear from her. This week's visionary, Miss Angela Henderson. Welcome to the show.
Hey, my friend. Super excited to be here today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for carving out your time. I know the time zone, the time difference, I should say, is ridiculous right now. It's in the afternoon here and it's 7:30 out there in the morning.
And then it's a day ahead. So we're at time of recording. We're actually Thursday morning our time, and you guys are still back in the USA. And Wednesday afternoon your time.
Yes, that is absolutely crazy to me. I love how the internet allows us to collapse time frames, you know.
It's been fantastic. And I know a lot of people, I mean, yes, COVID sucks, let's be honest, but the reality of it is opportunity is 100% available because of the internet and the technology, the different tech tools that we have nowadays. So if you're willing to look for opportunity, even in times of darkness, there's so many good things that can happen.
Absolutely. I was watching some documentary, I can't recall the name of it right now, but they were saying that in times of pandemics and calamity, things like this, more fortunes are made by the people that choose to focus on the opportunities that present themselves than any other time, you know, regular time in life. And I just think that it's amazing how the mindset of some people works to be able to create wealth. I'm astounded. So
it's amazing. There's so many, there's just so many amazing stories that I've heard that have come from the pandemic, right? One of my clients, for example, podcasting was a big thing when the pandemic came because now people had time on their hands to, rock and roll and just actually. So not only did we see e-com businesses go up, but this particular client, she wanted to hit 300K for the year, and we made over $1 million for her in that year because one of her evergreen products was about how to start a podcast, and hundreds of people were just buying it every month, right? But again, she was able to look for opportunity. At one stage, she was spending 10 grand a day on Facebook ads, right? Now, she never planned for that. None of us planned for that, but she was willing to pivot, adapt, and and look for that opportunity element. And so that's one example of just hundreds, right, that have just flourished, quitting their jobs in a time where they were worried. They had opportunity, and now they're like, oh my goodness, why was I staying in the 9 to 5, right? It's kind of like when you get a taste of entrepreneurship, you never want to go back to that desk job.
God. It is the best bite you will ever take. I tell people all the time, once you're bitten by that bug, you never want to go back. And I'm amazed at how there's one thing to want success, it's another thing to be coachable. Right. So you mentioned that she had, one thing in mind and she was able to pivot. But I find that people that are coachable and willing to accept coaching and feedback and input, those are the people that win. And it's always interesting to me, the mindset of people that are coachable, like to know that you don't know something.
But I think you said, I mean, a very key word there is mindset, right? So the way I look at me as a business consultant is I look at my trifactors around strategy, sales, and accountability. And when you infuse those together, I help you to create profitable businesses. But it would be very negligent of me not to say that mindset isn't a key. Now, mindset is one of the most valuable pieces that you can have in business. However, that is not my zone of genius. So when I work with my clients, I actually have a mindset coach that comes in and works with them separately to allow them to have that separate cohesiveness, I guess, within the programs. But mindset is key. And those entrepreneurs that I see kind of in that fixed mindset state where, why is it happening to me? This sucks, blah, blah, blah. Yes. And they keep talking about it for days and days after versus, yeah, it sucked. Yeah, I'm going to have a quick cry about it, but what can I do, right, to make things better? Because I believe it's not mistakes we make. There are lessons, and every mistake is a beautiful lesson that the universe is giving us in order to enhance and or take action or not take action that will lead us to the next step. So yeah, mindset is one of the key variables that I think business owners, well, I don't think I see it, minimize the importance of building that muscle within their business. And then it can teeter almost to too late, so it's super imperative for business growth and success.
I love it. See, this is how I know I have somebody that speaks success fluently on the show, where we could be this far in and I haven't even asked my first question yet. I love it. Absolutely love it. So I guess I have to ask, in terms of, if you think about your personal journey of running a business, how often do you actively, and we just talked about this mindset, that's crazy. How often do you actively have to control your thoughts and your plans and your daily activities?
I mean, yeah, it doesn't stop, right? I think once you're bitten with the entrepreneur bug, and add for me, I've got ADHD, right? The brain doesn't ever really settle. So it's a tool that you actually have to consciously be made aware of. And yes, I've tried meditating. It comes in spurts, but I feel like it's like I meditated and just like my brain's like, boom, 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 like keep going. I actually think it feeds, my brain in many ways. So, it's one of those things it's a constant when you wake up in the morning, for example, as I always look at when I get into my office and I go, okay, what's the number one revenue generating activities I need to do now? Yes. And I do those activities before I do anything else. Now, that might push me out of my comfort zone because I'm asking for the sale or I'm following up on leads or I'm doing whatever. But if you want a profitable business, don't be messing around scrolling on Instagram, Facebook, or whatever. How are you going to be putting yourself out there and asking for the sale? Because in my opinion, it is your responsibility to be asking for the sale on every given day. And so to go back to that question though, is how much does my brain always go and how much I'm adapting, pivoting hour to hour based on client need, based on COVID, based on, individual circumstances. It doesn't ever change. And I think it's a willingness to be able to adapt and not be so put in like a pigeonhole, that the more flexibility you have, the more that you're able to just continue to grow both inside and out.
Yeah, no, that's huge. And I think that you hit the nail on the head for me. I am somebody that I try to meditate. I have tried so many times, and I've tried prayer, same thing. And it never fails. I start my prayer, I'm like 4 lines in, and then I'm like, oh, I have to send that email. Oh my God, I need some coffee. Wait a minute, I have to answer that. Oh, I got to research this. I forgot to collect that payment. Well, there's something in me that is always looking for the next accomplishment. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to shut out the noise, right? So that you can focus on a particular thing. And I don't know, maybe I have ADHD too, but to that point, how do you organize your day so that you at least can start with, 5 things on the to-do list and then knock out, at least 4?
Yeah. So for me, as I look at the week, right? Collectively. So every Sunday night, I'll look at the week. I only see clients for my one-on-one, my mastermind, and my accelerator programs Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So those are the days I'm working in the business. And then when I'm working on the bigger picture are Thursdays and Fridays when I'm doing things like this, podcast interviews, podcasting for myself, potentially speaking events, or just sitting with my team and looking at the bigger picture. And so Monday mornings, though, I don't start anything until 10 o'clock. So for me, it's about easing my way into the work week. So that could be that I get up with my kids, get them out to school, and it could be I crawl back into bed. It could be that I go for a walk with a dog. It doesn't matter, because here's the thing is, you can run a business that is with ease. You can run a business with elegance. It does not have to be go, 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 and it doesn't have to be hustle. One of my main things is when I look at my week is how do I avoid burnout? Because you start with stress, then you go to burnout, and then you go to a full-blown mental health diagnosis. And as an ex-mental health clinician of 15 years, where I used to diagnose people with schizophrenia, bipolar, depression, anxiety, etc., it is a real big factor for entrepreneurs to teeter on a full-blown mental health diagnosis if they don't take care of themselves. So I structure my beginning of the week where I just ease into the week. I then meet with my team at 10, but I don't actually see any clients until 1 o'clock. And for me, is that then from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock on a Monday, I batch all my discovery calls. So I'll do 6 discovery calls in that time frame, so that I'm not doing a discovery call for a half hour on a Tuesday and then having to switch my hat back on to then doing one-on-one client work. So I like to batch it. So it's about easing my way into the work week, meeting with team, and then batching what I need to do. And then Tuesdays and Wednesdays are pretty much from, I'd say, 9 o'clock till 4, either one-on-one calls. I also schedule a lunch break. And I think this is the big thing, is everything has a scheduled allotted time. And we used to do it in our 9-to-5 jobs, our appointment with our boss, our appointment with this, our meetings with this. But as entrepreneurs, the reason why I feel I am where I am is I give everything a time slot. So I have an allocated time slot from 12 to 1 for lunch every day. I have an allocated time slot when I batch my work. I have an allocated time slot. There's even a reoccurring thing about catching up with my husband at the end of every day, right? Because the thing is we need to make what's important to us a priority. And if we don't, then what happens is things around us start to crumble. So it was my son's birthday at time of recording last night. And so I knew that I wasn't doing anything from 2 o'clock onwards because I wanted to get his cake. I wanted to pick him up early. I wanted to take him out to dinner.
Yes.
And so for me, that's how I look at scheduling. I also, as I kind of alluded to earlier on, the first thing I do though, when I'm in the office, right, is I look at what can I do that is a revenue generating activities, Hawk. So, because again, get those out of the way, and I at least know that there should be money coming in. So like I said, it could be responding to emails, email inquiries, follow up on discovery calls, whatever that looks like, because without making money, you don't have a business.
Right.
So revenue generating activities, easing into it, and then, batching out particular parts of my week.
Absolutely love it. Those are key gems that I hope everybody takes away. If nothing else, they can take away that, because I think just those simple parts can help to create, like you said, a bit of an ease to the business. You know what to expect. You're not jumping around. I would be remiss if you speak with a lot of clarity, a lot of comfort, a lot of strength. How long did it take you to get comfortable as an entrepreneur with what you were doing, so that you knew what you knew? Right? That you were strong enough to present.
Yeah, I mean, I first started it'll be 11 years next month, actually, my first business, which was an e-com business.
Okay.
So I knew nothing then, 0 followers, 0 email lists, whatever. But over the time, we finished up with 70,000 people on Facebook, 20,000 on Instagram, a 50,000 plus newsletter database. So of course I started with nothing. But the key thing for me though is failure was never an option. So I may not have known anything, but I knew that it would work out. I knew. So I didn't know when or how, but I knew that I was not failing on either of my businesses. It was literally not in my vocabulary. So a lot of times people ask questions like, again, how long did it take you? The reality of it is I never really let anything have been in my way. It's like I'm always looking for the next solution. So, and that's not trying to be a dick or trying to be cocky, but the thing is I think it's just my mindset's always been quite strong.
Yeah.
I give you an example is in the last 3 years, my grandmother died on Christmas. My brother died on Mother's Day. A father type figure died on New Year's Day. Recently, a best friend just passed away. And I also had a business friend die 2 weeks after a father type figure died on New Year's Day.
Oh my God.
So I've had 5 significant losses in less than 3 years. And one of the people who kind of know me are always like, yeah, but why did you keep going? And I was like, but why wouldn't I keep going?
Right.
It doesn't mean that I haven't grieved. It doesn't mean that a song comes on and I don't start crying. It doesn't mean that I might talking to this, I'm not slightly emotional about it. Yeah. But the thing is I was never going to let the desk get in the way of what I wanted and the bigger impact I was here to make. So even when I had those hurdles, also, I knew in me that failure was not an option, that we would still keep going. So it's just something that I feel like of course I didn't know what I didn't know,
sure.
But I feel I was always quite confident and strong with the fact that failure wasn't an option.
Is it hard to be a visionary like that, right? To know that failure isn't an option, but to know that only you can see the end goal when you first start, right? Like, so your team finds you or you find your team and you build as you go. Is it hard to be a visionary trying to have this goal that sometimes we can't articulate to our better halves, our significant others?
Oh, 100%. And I also think my team would probably say that they struggle with keeping up with me on any given day, right? Because there's something intuitively and spiritually within me. And that's really something I've tapped into. If someone said I'd looking at hypnotherapy or the spiritual side, I would have like probably, laughed in their face, right? But over the last 2 years, really, as I was working through the grief, it's been a big part of me. So for me is my team would say, oh, we can't keep up with her, but there's something I know intuitively that I'm here for a bigger impact. So for me it was about getting the foundations in my business. It was about making money. And now that in this particular business, I've made over probably close to 3 million over the last 4 years. Okay. For me, the thing is for next year, my word of the year already for 2022 will be impact. Okay. It's about how do I continue to leave the world a bigger place. And what I'll be doing is I will be renting an apartment and working with a domestic violence shelter in order to make sure that that I'm able to house one woman. So I won't manage it, but I will contribute back to make sure that rent is paid for that woman and her children. I'll look at a bigger impact for my foundation, is currently working with lawyers right now to get that set up. And so again, but I wasn't able to look at impact when I first started, because when you're in startup phase, you're just looking for, right, where's the next transaction, exactly. Right? And where's this? And you're just trying to keep afloat. But now that I'm coming out this other side where I don't feel the pressure as much anymore, it's really about the impact. How can I make that impact? So for me, that's why my team would probably struggle, because there's always something else. And they're like, hold on, you didn't talk to about us with that. I'm like, yeah, well, I'm telling you now, write it down. And so, they kind of get a little bit frustrated, I would probably say, with me. But I think, that's just how it is.
I love it. I love it. We mentioned your 6 values earlier in the show, the core values. 3 of them I love. I love all 6, but 3 of them I want to spend a little time on. And we'll start with fun. How do you manage to find fun running a business at your level when most entrepreneurs who haven't even gotten there yet forget to even have fun? Like we talked about the Nutella versus my coffee. Like, how does that happen for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's about choice. It's about responsibility. Every single day we have choice on what we choose to do and choose not to do. If you choose not to have fun, don't bitch about it when you're not doing it. Right. Really. I mean, that's kind of like, I'm pretty blunt about it, like choice. Yeah. So again, putting into the calendar, make a slot for it, like, fun activity. So for me, I mean, my kids are a huge driver. There's always something fun that I can go and do, right? I can take them to the movies. We can go to the park. We've got a British bulldog who's named Grateful. We can take her somewhere, nice. Right? Like there's fun is always around us if we choose to have fun, right? Yeah. So for me, it's about just making a choice and then implementing that into your day. But it's not just, fun doesn't necessarily mean like going and doing something. Fun could be for you sitting in the sunshine. Yes. Like it doesn't necessarily mean going and doing an experience or an activity. Right. So I think sometimes we need to define fun, because as adults or as we grow out of kids, like I was even talking to this with my daughter, she's only 8 the other day, about, she's still like fun is still very much in their vocabulary. Yes. But somewhere as we then transition to tweens and then teenagers and go through all that, we start to lose the fun, right? As we're transitioning. And then as adults, we lose it a little bit more. Yeah. So I always say, it's like, we almost have to find the fun factor again and find what lights us up again. Yeah. And then slowly making sure that we're taking responsibility and implementing that into our world.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. My thing is, if I can't have fun, I'm not doing it. Even like I have fun having these kind of conversations. And so I have a 10-year-old upstairs. We're watching a Marvel show later on tonight. Like that's our scheduled thing. So I totally agree. My second one that I wanted to touch on was growth. If I know you said you switched up a couple of them, but how do you measure, how does growth look to you? Do you do it in terms of business quarters or personal goals for the month? How do you measure your own growth?
I mean, growth again can be on so many variables. So there can be financial growth. So I might need to work with my accountant and bookkeeper around what the financial growth is.
Yes.
But there's also, for me, I've had a big spiritual and healing growth, right?
Okay.
And for me, how I've measured that is working with a healer, working with a hypnotherapist, working with this like energy healer lady. Like there's all these different people, right? And so that too, I've been able to measure, okay, well, in the last 18 months to 2 years, I've worked with 8 different modalities that I never would have worked with before, right? So growth can be spiritual growth, growth could be financial growth. When I look at, yes, we do look at our goals quarterly. I meet with my bookkeeper monthly. And so it's also just about having that time to reflect on what's working and what isn't. Then there's, you know, family goals. What are my goals for my family? So, for example, my daughter is growing her hair out because she wants to donate her hair back to kids with cancer, right?
Yeah.
So again, so it's about what's happening within our family unit where there's growth also, and making sure that I'm not just nurturing my own growth, but that I'm hearing what my children are also wanting to do, and how are we working through that to make that happen. So for Chloe, she had said that. We did some research on the internet. She's getting a haircut to trim her hair to make sure everything stays healthy. Yes. The hairstylist on Monday is going to tell us how long it has to be before she can cut it. Like, again, there's that type of growth. So I think it's just about understanding, what does growth mean to you to start with?
Yes.
And putting some measurables around those different layers, spiritual, family, revenue. Yeah.
Yeah. So that actually leads perfectly to a side question, because as a mom, as a wife, as a business owner, is one part harder than the other when it comes to balance and growth and, you know, running?
Well, so I think that is an interesting question. I think balance is bullshit, to be honest.
Let's go.
So for me, as I've had to learn very early on, is that because I still worked full time as a mental health clinician when I started my first business. I just had Finley, who was a year old. So I was working 40-hour weeks, had a young baby, starting a business. Obviously, I then started doing some traveling for the business. And so it was this thing where it was like, I had to try and do half, or quarter. And it just wasn't an option, right? So the thing is I always, if you look at the true definition of balance, it's about equal distribution of X, Y, and Z. Correct. Well, nothing was ever equal. And so then I was starting to get guilty because I wasn't spending as quote unquote much time with my kids or with my husband or whatever that looked like. So I reframe it with being present. And so when I'm on this call right now, I don't know if you saw when we first started talking about, my son comes in and he basically got the hand because my time now is with you. I'm no longer present with him, and he needs to respect that. Right. When I'm flying for a keynote, gosh forbid when I can fly internationally again, but when I used to speak internationally, right? Like again, my kids know that I would check in with them on FaceTime, but my mind and my physical body, I was present with wherever I was at and what I'm doing.
Right.
So by understanding the difference between balance and being present has allowed me to no longer feel this pressure about like this person hasn't met. Because if I'm out with friends, I might not meet with them regularly, but when I'm with them, my phone is down. It's typically off or left in the car, and they know they've got me for that entire time. So I've had to learn that I can be an equally kick-ass mom and an equal kick-ass woman in business and still do really well and still be present with them and create long-lasting memories, regardless if it's in business or in life.
I love it. The last one that I wanted to touch on was authenticity. And I wanted to frame it this way, because a lot of entrepreneurs feel like they have to carry themselves a certain way to project success. What are your thoughts on how you should carry yourself to be successful in terms of authenticity?
I mean, the sooner you can find who you are, the sooner your business will grow. So as soon as you start trying to consume too much content from a whole bunch of people and try and mold that to you, you're going to fuck things up fairly quickly. Yes. So as you can see, I'm pretty straightforward. I call a spade a spade. Yes. And that is who I am. There will be listeners right now who have probably already stopped listening. They're like, she's too bold, she's too whatever, right? That's okay. But there's gonna be people who are like, ooh, I need a little bit more of this girl's vibe. I need a little bit more energy. So the thing is I will attract those who need to be attracted to me, and I will repel the others. And I'm 100% okay with that. So the sooner you can be true to yourself, I'm actually, again, obviously you guys will see, but I've actually showered today and I actually have earrings and makeup on. This is like one time out of every 8 months, but I've got a speaking event after this. So I do need to look somewhat presentable, but 99% of the time I'm in a hoodie or an hoodie and I'm in boots, like slippers. Again, I've got a lot of grief from people over the years going, you're a business consultant, you need to act a certain way. I call bullshit. I'm not going to go taking photos of BMWs and Ferraris and airports and airplanes. This is what I get. If you don't like my Canadian Nutella loving accent that's going to show up on a call in a hoodie, then you are not my people. And I'm okay with that. So again, the sooner you can find what your voice is, the more impact you're going to have, the more profitability you have, and the more comfortable you're going to be with yourself.
I love it. I love it. And, it's funny because even with, COVID being what it's been, that's kind of been the dress code for us all until we jump on a Zoom meeting. But I absolutely love that you called it out, because a lot of people will go through the perception side first, right? They'll have their photo shoots, they'll have all that stuff just for content. And you spend all that time working on content, but you haven't worked on the business. And it's impossible to work in the business if you haven't worked on it. And so I love that you called that out. A lot of people are spending more time on content than actually creating the business.
But I think also too, you've got content. It's important. Yeah. But conversations lead to connections, which equal conversions. So to me, I'm very big about human to human marketing, and that is the experience and interaction that one faces with a particular brand. You can have great content, but if you're not building connections, which leads to conversations, which leads to conversions, and you're treating people like transactions versus like human beings, you will not be successful.
Love it. I absolutely love it. Talk to me a little bit more about the free training that you offer, why you decided to create it, and then second, the GROW framework that we just touched on, and what the GROW framework that people need to create a profitable business. Sorry.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. So I'm just in between looking at different slides real quick, just because I always like to make sure that I don't mess things up. So there's a few things that I think people need to think about when they're growing their businesses. And I guess I'll get to the GROW framework, but I'll step it back a bit, is most businesses come to me and it's like the story of the three little pigs. They've got a business made out of hay or a business made out of sticks. They're structurally there, but it wouldn't take much for it to crumble, just like what we saw in the three little pigs.
Yes.
So when I work with businesses, I'm very big about building a business of bricks, because if you build a solid foundation with bricks, even if COVID comes or you've got lower revenue 1 month, you will still be around long term. And I don't know any business that's just here for quick injection. Most people have the vision of being around long term. So for me, bricks might cost a little bit more. They're heavier, so it might take longer for you to carry them from point A to point B. Again, the bricks, like I said, cost a little bit more. So you might have to invest in a proper website, or you might have to invest in a business consultant, or you might have to invest in getting your podcast up. Right. But you're laying bricks that are going to help you be here from a longevity point of view versus a quick injection point of view. So that's kind of like where I like to start with that. Is I'm very big about foundations, and those foundations, when we look at it, are also around, sorry, I'm just pulling this up. There's also, 4 reasons why that I also like to talk about businesses struggle to survive. And one is the fact that they lack the clarity. They just have no clarity. They've got so much chaos in their head, and they don't know what to do from point A to point B. So they're just kind of running around. Number 2 reason why businesses struggle to survive is that shiny object syndrome. They're consuming content from you. They're consuming content from me. And they're like, oh, Hawk suggested this tool. Angela suggested this person. Yes. And then they're running around trying to chase things again. And then that you've got shiny object syndrome with lack of clarity, and we've got a bit of a problem. The third reason why I see businesses struggle to survive is that they're treating social media as their safety net, aka they are building on other people's real estate and not building on their own land.
Let's
all right,
go.
Aka websites, SEO, keywords, etc. And the last thing people struggle to survive in business is because they're doing it alone. In Western culture in particular, we are very, again, if I ask for help, it's a sign of weakness.
Correct.
But the sooner you can invest even in a $10 training session and then a $20 session and then start working with a consultant, you will not not have to make the same mistakes. You will be able to save time and energy and move quicker. And then that leads to, which is the GROW framework, right?
Yes.
Which again is, I don't believe you need big budgets. I don't believe that you need big connections or big email lists to grow, but you do need to, the G for GROW stands to, again, get clarity. You need to understand what is your product, because the saying I say with my clients is, if you come to me and you have a turd product, I can't polish a turd. A turd looks like a turd, it smells like a turd, and even if I put pink glitter and feathers, it's still a turd. Right. So we really have to get clear on your messaging, your product, your pricing, and your foundations, because without that getting clarity, again, it's gonna be harder to grow. The R is about revenue, and it's about understanding what is your value ladder and what are your revenue streams and how do they feed into one another in order to have that successful and profitable business. How can you upsell, how can you downsell, and how can you continue to keep people within your ecosystem without them going elsewhere? Yes. The O is about overcoming obstacles, and that's really about not putting all your eggs in one basket. It's about making sure that you're willing to put into the mindset, because again, if you don't have a strong mindset, how are you going to overcome the obstacles? Right. And the W is around welcoming systems and support. When you start off as a solopreneur, you don't necessarily have a lot of systems, or you're just kind of working off of a Google Doc or an email. Yes. But the bigger you get, we're going to need to welcome systems, and again, that support from team to come into place in order to be successful. So that's a little bit more about the GROW framework, but also those 4 reasons why most businesses struggle to survive.
I love it. Do you run into a lot of resistance when you're talking to potential clients or partners about those 4 reasons? Which one would you say is the one where no, Angela, I know, like clarity. I know what I want, but what they want is still the turd. Like, how do you?
Yeah, no, like, listen, I would say out of all of those, I would say probably the one that even though they want it the most is revenue, they will struggle to sell. Right? Because of an imposter syndrome. Yes. They will struggle because they don't want to feel sleazy. And so what they're actually doing is by not selling, they're screwing up their revenue, right? And so even though they'll say to me, I want more revenue, I've actually just created a new program called Everyday Payday, helping businesses to make every day a payday. And one of those elements is being able to sell, right? Yes. And so, women in particular have a hard time with like overcoming so much mindset stuff around this. So even though they may come to me with the revenue, yes, when we actually get to the bottom of it, they really struggle with asking for the sale.
I found a lot of, and I guess it depends on industry, but sometimes people don't know. What I found is, especially for coaches and people that are mentors and running businesses like consultancies, they don't know what to monetize. They don't know what they can sell. Right. So like, say, for instance, there's another podcaster probably listening is trying to find streams of revenue strictly from the podcast. Well, it could be they love your podcast, you grow the audience there, but now they want to hear from you. And now you can monetize your own speeches, your own talking. How do you help people identify what they can monetize?
The first thing I go back to is what brings you joy. So often people are actually trying to create products what other people have because they've seen other people be successful with those products. Yes. If you're just chasing the dollar and it doesn't bring you joy, that product will only have a shelf life, a very minimal shelf life, right? So I always go back to what actually lights you up, what brings you joy. And so, for example, if you look at my value ladder, so my value ladder is today I'm doing a $37 workshop, and it's about how to create your 90-day plan to end 2021 with a bang. So I will work with them with creating their strategic plan. It's 37 USD. Now, here's the thing, though. I also look at my mission, and my mission is to make sure that by 2025, an additional 2,500 women have access to the tools, community, and resources they need to grow sustainable and profitable businesses. So some people will say, well, why are you only selling it for $37 when you could sell it for probably $500? I could. Right. But it goes against what I'm trying to do, because that's $37 might be what is all anyone can afford right now because of COVID or whatever. But why should I deprive them of a learning? And again, I do pride myself on the knowledge I know. Why should they miss out on getting that knowledge because I'm driven by money? Right. So for me, this is a $37 workshop, and it's at the very bottom of my ladder.
Sure.
The next thing though is if people do want to work with me a little bit more, they could then come into Everyday Payday, which is a $500 product, right? And it's about creating a product that is a micro learning. So it's all about how to make Everyday Payday. I'm not looking at the rest of their business. It's strictly one micro learning. Yeah. But because I know my audience, and the number one thing they say they want is more leads, more money, more cash, even though I know they need more foundations, more systems, more mindset, I still need to give them what they want. And I need to then bring them in and start seeding them with mindset and the spirituality and other things. I can't lead with that. Then if they finish Everyday Payday, they could then go into my Profit Pillars, my 12-month accelerator program. So that one's $4,000. It's still not high, but it's a group coaching program. Or you've then got my mastermind, which is for those who are making more than 20K a month. And then you've got one-to-one. But when you look at that value ladder though, Hawk, is some of my one-on-one clients will start with me, but then they'll go back into Profit Pillars because they've gotten what they need, but they still want some support. Some of my Action Takers Mastermind people will still then potentially buy the $37 program just because they want another injection of edge, right? Yeah. So when you look at creating your products, all of these products bring me joy. There's nothing that I wake up going, God, I hate this. Never. Because if there was, I would get rid of it because it's not in alignment with me.
Right.
So really, you need to go back to what lights you up, what brings you joy, and create a product around that. Yes. But at the same time, knowing that that's what your client wants. You can't just do something that lights you up and brings you joy if it's not going to solve a solution or give a solution to the people who are buying, because then you're still never going to make any money. Right. So you do need to understand that you create the product that brings you joy, while at the same time, it's creating joy for the other human being also.
I absolutely love that you talked about the value ladder, because as you know, especially for us Westerners, we hear a lot right now. There's this heavy push on, raise your prices, make people come up to your level. And, and I understand it, right? Because you want to run a profitable business, but I find it condescending sometimes, because there are people that are just starting out that you are automatically eliminating because you want to set your price, at $1,000. And I find it condescending, because while you should absolutely always know the value that you bring to the table, I feel like you're forgetting where you started.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah.
And being able to provide a solution that meets them for where they're at, right? So it's like, again, high ticket items, I do call a little bit of bullshit on, right? Yeah. For a bunch of reasons. I think they can work in a business model 100%. But if you only have a high ticket item and that's the only thing you're offering on your value ladder, you also, like you said, are segmenting, right? All these others and segregating all these other people who potentially want you. So to me, it's your responsibility to create something where you're still you've got value. Yeah. But again, I also think that there's a little bit, there's a lot of people that say charge your worth.
Yes.
Right. And there's a few things here. I'm all about charging your worth, but there comes a time where it starts to can be driven by ego.
Yes.
And for me, so. I think what I'd like to see people starting about is, again, going back to how did I start and why did I start? Yeah. And it doesn't mean that you're any less valuable, but sometimes you might make the exception to work with someone at half the cost just because that's how you want to give back. But there's like almost this ingrainedness is that charge your worth, charge your worth, charge your worth. But there's also people out there who have been told that, have never owned a business, have started trying to be a business consultant, and they're charging that, and people are paying it, but they're really fucking up their businesses because they actually don't have the skill set to be a business consultant or coach. And so there's a few things there that I think, I think people, again, do what you actually know what to do and what your zone of genius is, first of all, right? Yeah. Because don't fake it till you make it. I actually think that saying's really crazy, fake it till you make it. You're messing with people's livelihoods, with people's mental energy, financial energy, it's not the right thing to do, and that's not going to last for a very long time. And charging your worth, yes, but just know where you started, right? And that, my hourly rate to work with me one-on-one is $1,000 per hour. It used to be $100 an hour, right?
Yes.
But what I also think people forget too is, for those people who have done the work and know what they're doing, is I've spent almost $1 million in professional development learning from some of the best people around the world. So when you work with me, I'm saving you time and energy that is going to move you quicker, right, along the space. And that I've invested in close to $1 million in making sure that I know what I need to know in any given year for what's changing. Yeah. So just a few, I know a little bit off tangent, but I think it's important that charge your worth if you've got a skill set, but don't think it can only be high-end products. I'll give you one last example. I was working with a client last year in COVID. She's an international artist, very well known. But she does a lot of her revenue stream came from doing live art retreats in Mexico, Vietnam, a variety of other places. Okay. Well, obviously COVID came. So that shut everything down.
Yes.
So we created this $27 product because she also wanted to be able to give back and make sure that people were still sparking their creativity during COVID, and when a time when everything was a little bit black and gray for people, right? So she wanted to bring color back into their world.
Yes.
And so what happened was, is she did that. That $27 product has now made $1.5 million in the last 12 months.
Let's go.
So don't tell me. So she led with value. It brought her joy. It was part of her being able to help people during COVID. And because of that, we've been able to clear, or revenue, not clear profit, over $1.5 million.
Yeah.
So, and now let's not be naive. Now you think, oh my goodness, I don't want anyone to just go out there. She also had a community. She also had an email list. So again, right, there are other variables, and we did run ads. But what I'm saying is that you don't just have to have a high ticket. You can still meet other people where they're at and not think that you're any less worthy of making any more money. It's just the fact that, again, go back to why are you in business? Because if you stay connected to your why, then it's easier to be able to offer $37 products. Like today, I've got 120 people coming to my $37 workshop, and I will be there treating them as if they were my one-on-one clients.
Yes.
Because when you lead with value, and there's this great book, I'm just going to Google it real quick, by Bob Berg and John David Mann, called The Go-Giver.
Yes.
And they talk about the 5 laws of, I'm just Googling it, stratospheric success. Yes. And I do want to show it because I think it's important for people to also hear. And so in the book, they talk about these 5 laws of stratospheric success, and they talk about the law of value. Yes. Your true worth is determined by how much more you give in value than you take in payment. They talk about the law of compensation. Your income is determined by how many people you serve and how well you serve them. They go on to talk about the law of influence. Your influence is determined by how abundantly you place other people's interests first. The 4th law is the law of authenticity. The most valuable gift you have to offer is yourself. And lastly, they talk about the law of receptivity. The key to effective giving is to stay open to receiving. So if you can lead with value in your business, regardless if it's a $37 product or a $1,000 product, you will be profitable, because people more than ever before want to be seen and heard and treated like a human, hence my human-to-human marketing I was talking about earlier, and not like a transaction. So again, lead with value no matter what, and you will be profitable.
I love it. Value is one of my favorite words. Also vision, obviously. And I tell people all the time, Nordstrom is a company that leads with, a certain high ticket item, right? You're going to Nordstrom, you're not getting out of there with $20 worth of stuff. But Walmart is also a very, very powerful, valuable, profitable business. And you can go in there and come out with some stuff for $20, right? So it just depends on who you're catering to. I absolutely love the way you broke that down. Let me ask you, if I've always been intrigued with by people with Facebook groups, because I don't have the patience to run a Facebook group. But can you talk to me about how it's helped you build your business and how important it's been to the community aspect of running a business?
Yeah, I can't tell you, first of all, how many of my coaches in the past have said, get rid of the Facebook group because it's free.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
But it goes back to, if I want to help more women in business, it doesn't, by 2025, 25 more hundred women, it doesn't just mean paid. It might be that they consume my podcast, which is free, my group for free, or my blog for free. That might be enough to help them right now to move them forward. Then if they do want to pay me, they can. So my Facebook community has about 8,400 members now. It's called the Women in Business Collaborative with Angela Henderson. And we lead with value in the group, right? Now, I also want to say we lead with value, but we're also not silly from a point. It's a very top of funnel for us. But by us, so we make sure, or we try, even with 8,400 people, that no comment gets left behind. Right. So it's either my team goes in there and will at least like something, comment, tag someone, etc. Right. Because the thing is we want people to be seen and heard. All right. It's very important that they do that. So we're not perfect, but what I'm saying is that is our aim, is that no comment or post gets nothing on it. All right. The other thing is it is very community. So it's not just about me posting my stuff. On Mondays, we've got Meme Monday, and it's a really great way for people just to laugh and joke, and we share all these funny memes. It's very lighthearted, but people love it. Then we do a Tip Tuesday thread. So again, there's a thread where everyone can kind of give their tips. It's not promoting, but again, still adding value to the group. Then on Wednesdays, I still am probably one of the only few groups that still allow people to promote their business. So every Wednesday, it's always my busiest day, but in the group, because people know, but there's a thread and they can all post in there, and people still make quite a lot of business in that group. Thursday, we do Thankful Thursday. So it's about how are we showing gratitude back in this space. And Fab Friday is just around making sure what are you going into the weekend for, etc. People can also ask questions for help in there. But I know for a fact that when someone gets on a discovery call with me, the combination of if they're inside my Facebook community and or listening to my podcast, the Business and Life Conversations podcast, my conversion rate is almost bound to happen, because they've had an opportunity to see me, hear me, and feel what it's like to be part of the community. And they're like, well, damn, if Angela's like this and it's free, what's it like when I'm paying her? So again, I lead with value, and it's not just me. Obviously, I do have a team in there that helps in there. But if you look at it from a top of funnel perspective, is inside of Facebook groups, you have the opportunity to ask any new member 3 questions. So we ask them, what is their business? What are they struggling with? And would they like access to whatever resource we have? So we're also able to get their email, and we're able to then put them into the funnel. All right. We're also, and not just to get a sale, but to nurture, give them what they need based on what they've chosen. 2, we're then able to find out what they're struggling with. And now we've got a Google sheet that I can see all of the things they're struggling with, which allows me to either create new podcasts or new blog articles or do a live in the group mentioning those type of struggles. Because once I start seeing 10 women with a similar problem, it's easy for me to go, hey, I can create this piece of content, because I know if 10 people like this are struggling with this, well, then there's probably 100 people that are struggling with the same type of thing. So it allows me for content creation. It allows me to build connections and add value, aka have conversations, which then lead to conversions.
I am a fan. I love how strategic you are, but I also love how you can tell that, I don't even know a better way to say it. It's obvious that you have your shit together, right? That's one thing. But more importantly, I love that you still care. Most people that can say, I've made X, Y, Z, I've spent $1 million on personal growth, they are so far into the weed of the systems and the funnels that they forget to really care and interact with their community. And so I love it.
I'll give you an example in my paid group, for example. So I've got 70 members in one of my profit pillars. Now, 70, it's not thousands, because I'm also learning about my human design. And one of the things that I'm finding with my human design is that part of my makeup of my design is that I actually prefer smaller, more intimate groups than say 5,000 people. So again, human design's teaching me a lot about, again, how I can create better programs and things like that based on what I'm actually ingrained with. So that's interesting. But inside of my Profit Pillars group, we have our monthly hot seat calls, our monthly co-working, our monthly goal setting, whatever. I know who's on those calls and who isn't. So every single week when my team is, we do a check-in on all the clients. They pull up all of the clients for each program.
Yes.
And they're saying, do we need to do outreach to any of these clients?
Gotcha.
And we've got systems in place that if I haven't seen you on a call for 2 consecutive times, my team will reach out and it will say, the team and I Ange has asked us to reach out because she's worried that she hasn't seen you in the program. And she just wanted to make sure that everything's all right with you and your family. Because these people are not just a transaction to me.
Yes.
I'm not just taking their money and forgetting about them. Like, what else can we be doing to support you? So we've got mechanisms in place to make sure that we can outreach fairly quickly to make sure they're getting what they need. Sometimes they'll come back and just be like, oh, lockdown number 6 in Victoria, for example, I just haven't been in the group, but thank you so much for checking in.
Yeah.
Every new client that joins with me gets a personalized gift too. Now, a lot of people will go, oh, how do you do that? Again, systems.
Right.
And people don't want a shitty pen with your brand on it. They don't. It gets thrown in the bin.
Yes.
So again, if you take the time to understand what do the humans that are buying from you want, the reality of it is they're going to stay. So every person, when they come on boarding, will get a questionnaire that they get. And if they don't answer it, my team is prompted and then click up to go back and get the information. But it's, when did you start your business? What is your business name and what is your address? And we create individual plaques for them that has their name and their established date. And we send it personally to them and it's stickered. So it goes survey to my team. My team then pays for the plaque. Then the lady who makes them then sends them directly with my branding, like from Angela Henderson, and it gets to them. So again, these women who've been with me for years still have this. And are they less likely to throw it out? No, but they're going to throw out your stupid pen. All right. So again, it's about leading with value and showing them that, again, they're not just a number. So to me, I may not have hit $1 million in 1 year yet, but I can lay my head on my pillow knowing that my ethics are in check and that I still know that what I do and what I give is of value.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, real quick, scrap the pens, throw out the pens. You don't cancel the order.
I'm telling you, even when I run my retreats and stuff, I'll still get. This is how in depth I go. When they sign up for the retreat, they have to tell me their favorite color and what their word of the year is.
Oh, wow.
I then have a lady who does brand merchandise. Yes. Okay. But she will then, I pay extra, but I can buy each of the client's favorite colored pens, pencils, and water bottles.
Yes.
She will then write their name and their word of the year for them. So when they arrive, everything is personalized for them.
Wow. The detail is amazing.
But remember, if you go back to human marketing, it's the experience and interaction one faces with a brand.
Yes.
It's that emotion, right? I think someone says, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel.
Yes.
And so again, by leading with value, they go, wow, she's taken notice.
I love it. I love it. So we're getting close to wrapping up. I probably should have stopped this thing 20 minutes ago and made people pay for the rest of it. But we have our lightning round. So I am going to give you one word, and you tell me what this word means to you or the first thought that comes to mind when you have this word. The first word will be execution. When you hear that word, what does it mean to Angela Henderson?
Action.
Awesome. Second word would be mindset, which we talked about a little earlier.
Work on it.
Value.
What would it come to value? Yeah, lead with value.
Lead with value. What about the word vision?
Vision. Stay true to your vision. Because here's the thing, in times of COVID, your vision hasn't changed. The only thing that has changed is the plan on how you're getting to your vision.
I like that. But what would you say? So for some people, it has changed, though. Some people have said, even if they're in their 9 to 5, they said, you know what, I'm never commuting again. I'm never driving back to work, right? So in which case, when their vision does change, how do they create new clarity, new goals, how do they work that part of it?
Yep. Again, going back to those basics though, right? So if your vision has changed, most people's vision, again, I would say, so if we kind of rewind, if your vision is still the same, so whenever I ask that question, people will still know what their vision is, even if it means they're no longer commuting. They should still have their new vision in place. And my thing is what are you going to do? The plan hasn't changed. It's just how are we going to get you there now, right? So like, what does that look like? So what I would say for those individuals out there is going back to, again, why are you getting out of bed? What is your why, right? Because if you don't even know your why, then your vision is going to fail. What motivates you, what excites you, what brings you joy, similar to what I've talked about earlier on, is because, again, if you can't rattle those types of things off right now, then your vision probably isn't in alignment with you and it needs to be changed.
Let's go. I love it. So when you are doing your own personal growth, and we mentioned you have different healers, counselors, and therapists and all those kind of things, when you're doing that, is it easy for you to carve out additional time to process the things that you've learned?
Listen, I would say that I don't take a lot of time to process. I consume it and I just go to and it's not that I'm not minimizing it, but I believe in divine timing, that the universe is giving you what you need on any given day, right? So for me, as I consume the content and I will divulge it, and I work with it. The thing though that I will say is when I worked with this healer once, it was one of the most extraordinary experiences I've ever had. And it was freaking bizarre. A friend of mine had recommended it to me. I didn't really know what to expect. I just got on the call and she's like, well, do you know why you're here? And I'm like, no. I was like, a few of my friends said it would be good because of what I've been going through. She's like, okay. She said, get your pen and paper ready. Okay. And she said, because when I transfer over, I won't remember this conversation. And at this stage, I'm like, dude, I'm already out. Like, I'm like, can I get a pass out? Because I was like, what? My friends didn't tell me that this level of crazy was happening. But I was like, in my brain, I was like, Angela, trust the process. Trust the process. So I'm sitting there and all of a sudden she starts talking about a few things and I was just like, whatever. And then all of a sudden she says, someone's here. Okay. And they said, you need to start healing from the inside out. And she said, you need to go back to some of the basics, like what she said, and at that stage, I should see if I had the book, I'd show you. I'd written down the words bread and butter because my grandmother used to make homemade bread and butter. And so she's talking about healing and going back to like some of those primary basics that I used to do. Yes. And she said, and then the next word, I giggled to myself because my grandmother used to spank us on the ass with the wooden spoon to get us out of her kitchen. And she said, and on my children's life, I mean, this was recorded too, is that she said, the lady is your grandmother and she wants to take the wooden spoon like she used to and get you out of the kitchen. At that stage, I was a mess. I was like, and she said, she's feisty. She won't stop talking. And then she talked about, she wants to apologize for some of the things that happened. And it was, an example is a lot of the men would come around on weekends and they would have whiskey because we were on a farm. They never hurt us or anything like that, but they just got loud and rambunctious. And they were Graham was normally in there. She said, listen, I want to apologize for those Friday nights. A little kid like you shouldn't have had to see those things. Like, it was so specific, Hawk, that it was like, wow. So like I got off the phone and my dad goes, I call my dad, I'm a mess. And he's like, kid, there's no way anyone would know any of that about our family. And I was like, you might think I'm on drugs. I said, but he's like, the thoughts crossed my mind, kid. I was like, I'm not. But I was like, Dad, that's such a, so that's an example of what I've learned now is like that day, I finished calls at noon and I actually went and slept for 2 hours. And then the next day I woke up and it wasn't an essence of sadness, but what they have told me is your body healing. Yeah. And so I just said to my husband, I actually have to be in bed all day. There's no energy to do anything, but I wasn't sick. Right. Yeah. And they just said, that's the body. So it's like in that instance, yes, I allowed it to process. Sure. Right. Sure. But then it's like I carry on. But even the lady, I said, well, how will I know if I need to come back? She said, intuitively, you'll know. She's like, and I'll be here when you need me to, when you need me the next time. And my brother who died too came in briefly. He came in and gave a message. And again, very specific, just saying, we're very proud of you. And even though our family's pretty fucked up, he goes, don't forget the good times. And then he left. Yeah. Wow. So I'm telling you, it was like, people may be listening and thinking it's as crazy as I thought it was when the lady started talking, but it was an experience I'll never forget. So that's an example where I did let myself process it, but that was like 24 hours. And then I'm on doing the next thing.
No, I will say this. It does seem creepy. One, absolutely does.
I agree. Yes.
But two, I will say that it's, we all have a background to where we're the first in our family to do XYZ. And I believe that if our elders could come back, there would be some things with new knowledge that they would absolutely apologize for, So I totally, I can see it almost the way you describe it. And I trust me, I get it. I get it.
Yeah, I've had 11, either 11 clients or friends go to this lady since this thing. And I'll give you one of my clients, she's in my mastermind. She grew up in a little coastal town in Italy. And unfortunately, she lost her daughter and her sister. And the lady started off the session going, I just want to share with you. She's like, what I'm seeing is this ocean. And she's like, it's a small village. And across the road was this. And she was like, oh, okay. And then she said, hold on a minute. Even talking about it gets me a bit emotional. She said, your sister is here and she has your daughter.
Oh my God.
And so like my client said, she was like, what? Like, and I'm telling you, when you fill out the form, it's literally your name, your email, no web address, no nothing. It's just random lady in America. Like, it's like the most random thing. And she's like, what?
Wow.
She's like, and so that was within the first, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
2 minutes of the call. So what I'm saying is like, again, I would have laughed if someone said I would have done something 2 years ago, but when you go through that much grief of the 5 people I've lost and someone recommend it, you go, man,
what's the worst that can happen?
I said, well, exactly. For $150, what's the worst thing? Okay.
Yes.
But yeah, like, again, I was sold. So, it was interesting. Again, you have to kind of do it. But of the 11 people who have done it, they've all messaged me going, what? Like, they go, this is next level. But again, it's that healing part, right? Like, so often, as an ex-mental health clinician, is yes, I can sit there and I can do therapy like I did CBT, DBT with clients, but I really think that's the surface level. This healing that I experience, and even with hypnotherapy, it's like one more level that you will never get when you're sitting in a room talking with people. And I'll just say one last example. When I did my hypnotherapy sessions, the lady said, is there anything you want to talk about today? Or did something come up for you? And I said, actually, one of my clients said something to me. She's a one-on-one client. And she said, Ange, I thought I got more templates when I worked with you. And so I immediately was like, templates? I'm like, went back, like, I've given her the 7 templates she needs specifically for her business. So I was like, what? So anyways, the lady goes, well, let's just see where this goes. She counts me down. You're still obviously there. But it took me to an incident when I was 19 in my mom's kitchen. She had just separated from my dad. And the incident was there was a computer up. And she was on that online dating, like eHarmony or whatever it's called. And it said, Angela is in medical school, GPA of this, but she had made up who I was.
Wow.
And she had also made up my sister and had made up my brother, right? But I didn't at that stage think anything of it. But it came up in the hypnotherapy session. And what it came up at is, you can see here, was I am not enough, is what I thought it was, is I am not enough. And so she's like, even so when your client said that, is somewhere underneath, do you know what I mean? Like that subconscious is saying, actually, this is still bothering you. And you were triggered when this lady said, I thought I got more templates.
Right.
And so that's an example where that would never have come out in talking therapy. And so, and I've never used the words that I'm not enough ever. I'm a very confident person, but somewhere my psyche was saying, and hypnotherapy was able to get me there and help move me out of that. So those are 2 examples that are very, not your traditional, but I'm here to tell you now that I've done them, that yes, it's left me very eye open.
I love it. So my last question, I just recently did a interview with a very prominent professor out here. And we were talking about some of the things that she's dealing with in diversity and entrepreneurship and all those things. And one of the questions that I asked her, which I would love to ask you, is I said, as an entrepreneur, where are you most effective and are you happy in that space? For example, I am very, very effective when I have a deadline, but I hate operating in that space. Like, so like for you, where are you most effective and are you happy in that space?
For me, I would say I'm most effective delivering, right? So delivering the one-to-one consulting, delivering the speaking, delivering that. And it makes me most happy. Where I'm not is all the intricacies behind the scenes, right? So all the responding back to emails or
Yes.
setting up launch strategy, right? It's like, I just like coming in, doing my thing and being able to exit. I think a lot of people would love that, but we don't get that opportunity at the beginning. And then you bring team, and then you've got to work out team. So I just love coming in, executing. It's my zone of genius. It lights me up. What I don't like is all the little bits and pieces behind that stop me from doing that. So by having team now, though, is they remove a lot of those from me to give me the time and space to do more of what lights me up, which is that consulting, speaking, live events, and things like that.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, that's my thing too. I cannot stand the admin work. It is not mine. I would outsource that any day of the week to anyone that could even pretend they can do it, because I love, this part, the production. So totally understand. Let everybody know where they can find you online and what's next for Angela Henderson.
Yeah, you can find me by just heading to angelahenderson.com.au or following me over on Instagram at Angela Henderson Consulting. And yes, if you head to my website, you'd be able to choose to listen to my podcast, join my group, download some of my information, read my blog. So again, that's just angelahenderson.com.au. And what's next as I enter into 2022, having the space to make that bigger impact. So getting my foundation up, working with a charity to get 1 or 2 apartments going to help with DV and helping women escape domestic violence, and really honing in on how I can make a bigger difference for women specifically. I know you're a man, but my thing is if we get more wealth into the hands of women, we change the world. And the data shows us that women are more likely to contribute back than men are. And so my main thing is to how to get more wealth into the hands of women and make sure that women have a voice so that they too can make a greater impact for our community and our world.
I will say I have interviewed almost 100 people, and everybody is helping women. Nobody's helping the guys. Nobody wants to help us. It's we got to find our own way. Everybody's helping women, but I understand it. I have 4 daughters, and I am all for. I will say, whatever you give the right woman, she will make it better. She will increase it and make it better. So I understand it. But us poor guys out here, man, there is nothing for us.
Because they're going down quick.
Seriously. So like I tell everybody, invest in women. That's all you got to do. Invest in women and you'll be all right.
The rest will be taken care of.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, all my visionaries, you have been rocking with the great one, Miss Angela Henderson. We've been talking about entrepreneurship, personal growth, running a business. I hope this interview has been informative. I hope we've added a smile to your day. But most importantly, we hope that we've helped you shorten the learning curve on your way to success. Buy your boy a coffee. The link will be in the show notes. If you choose to support, like, share, subscribe across all your platforms. Send in your messages and your guest suggestions. If we can make it work, we will. I cannot continue to grow this show without you, my visionaries. I'm so appreciative that you gave us your time today. You know how it goes. There's absolutely no miracle that happens without someone doing something. We'll see you either at the top or from the top. Angela, thank you so much for your time.
No worries. I hope you have a beautiful day.
You too. Australia is blessed to have you. I can't wait till you can travel internationally. We need you over here.
No worries. Have a wonderful day, my friend.
You too. Talk soon.